in a busy show with plenty to get to. We're going to talk some Indians from Goodyear, Arizona. We will check in a tribe getting set to start Cactus League play tomorrow. We will talk Cleveland sports ownership as well. And we will meet a local NASCAR driver who drove in the Daytona 500. But we're going to begin things off with Browns. As the Combine is getting set to begin, we are going to take a look at some of the guys you should keep an eye on, guys that could be that number 17 pick for the Browns, the first round, the 17th overall pick. And we're going to welcome in Jake Burns from the Orange and Brown Report. Jake, take us through this Combine later this week. What should we be looking for? Who are some names to remember?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave. I think the Browns' plan and how they're going to construct everything is still a little bit foggy. We're not entirely sure with free agency how things will shake out and what their intentions will be at 17. But some good names to keep an eye on, I think, is certainly going to be DK Metcalf, the kid out of Ole Miss, who I think is a fantastic wide receiver. Big guy, 6'4", 220, very built, very sound in terms of his size, and his ability to separate at the wide receiver position with that size combination makes him a deadly player, one that the Browns might feel they need to add to the wide receiver room as that true number one target. They could do that through the draft with Metcalf. Ed Oliver out of Houston, the defensive tackle, tons of talent, not overly big, but that type of speed off the ball, interior pressure talent that you really need and covet. Think a little bit smaller with the potential to be somebody like Aaron Donald that we saw for the Los Angeles Rams. He's a name to keep an eye on if he falls down draft boards a little bit due to size and some people looking for quarterbacks, things like that. I think that if he falls to 17 or close to it, the Browns will be compelled to find a way to get him on their roster. And then lastly, another interior defensive player, because I think the Browns really need to improve upon the defensive line interior-wise beside Larry Ogunjobi, is Clemson's Christian Wilkins. He's just a really sound football player, super intelligent, stayed at Clemson all 4 years. I think he was the academic Heisman winner. He's just everything you want an interior player. Can defend the run, good enough against the pass, strong, quick, just really productive as well. So I think that those three are the names that I'm keeping an eye on right now. There are other names that will pop up as the time comes and we get closer to it and have an idea what their needs are. But as far as things sit right now, those are the three big names that I'm keeping a close eye on with testing numbers in Indianapolis.
You look at DK Metcalf, and his uncle is Eric, who played for the Browns. Different player. This is a kid that's put together, 6'4", and he will impress at the Combine just from his physical stature alone.
Yeah, when you think of a guy that's similar to, I know we don't want to talk about him because he's no longer with us, but Josh Gordon, you're getting that same type of player, the long stride, big physical body, can eat up grass when he's taken off downfield. And, he has maybe some nuance issues with route running, but those are things that Adam Henry, the Browns wide receiver coach, Jarvis Landry, those guys can work with him on. You don't get that kind of big physical skill guy who can go up and get the football, that big red zone target people love to talk about. It's an all-in-one type of player. He is coming off a pretty serious neck injury that cut his last season there at Ole Miss short. But I think that based on reports, it sounds like he's gonna pass all of those with flying colors in Indianapolis. So he is one to pay attention to if the Browns don't acquire a number one receiver. I know a lot of people talk Odell Beckham. If they don't have the ability to acquire somebody big time there and they want to expand on that room, that's the name to keep an eye on.
And Jake, you wrote a really interesting article that's up on cleveland.com about the free agent wide receiver. So if people want to go look at that, they can look at that. What area do you think the Browns need to address in order to get where they want to be as a team, which is the playoffs, and to make a run in the playoffs even?
Yeah, great question. I think that they're going to have to attack improving offensive skill as much as they can. I think the NFL is so offensive driven these days that it's going to make sense for them to improve upon what they have. I think that they have enough talent there to win games that they proved in the last half of 2018. But if you can add one playmaker to the group, a big-time playmaker, that'll really take this group to another level. I certainly think there's justification for needing to improve the defensive line. Myles Garrett, defensive end there, and Larry Ogunjobi played among the most snaps in the NFL this year. Some of that's due to the overtime games that they played, but some of that's due to a lack of rotational players that Greg Williams trusted. Now, Steve Wilks comes in as the defensive coordinator. I think we can expect to see more rotation, so they're going to need to improve, certainly going to need to improve upon the interior defensive line next to Larry Ogunjobi. They could possibly benefit from another pass rusher opposite Myles Garrett, as Emmanuel Ogbah hasn't quite produced the way we hope he did. He's going to be in a contract year, so it'll be a big year for him. And then lastly, linebacker play. I think that they need to improve. Outside of Joe Schobert, the Browns had one of the worst tackle rates in the NFL in 2018. They have to improve upon their linebacker play, whether that's a bounce back year from Christian Kirksey, moving on from Jamie Collins. I'm not entirely sure. It's not a great overall draft class for linebackers, but there are some fun names that are set to hit the free agent market. Somebody like Jordan Hicks out of Philadelphia, amongst many other names. C.J. Mosley from Baltimore might hit the market, but we're not entirely sure how that'll pan out. But they can improve certainly through free agency at the linebacker spot.
Let me ask you that as the last question I'll ask you. Which area do you think you attack in free agency? Which area is stronger in the draft? What do you attack draft-wise as we get ready for the Combine coming up?
Good question again. I think the defensive end is loaded in free agency, so I expect them to add some defensive ends, maybe even two. I do expect them to add along the interior as well. There are some really fun names along the interior. Keep an eye on Henry Anderson out of New York, the Jets' big defensive tackle that they might not be able to bring back. That's just an interesting name. But the good part is the draft is really loaded with talent along the defensive interior and outside too. So those are two positions that I think the Browns have good options to solve in those two spots. I don't expect the Browns to attack a free agent and wide receiver. That might be a draft or trade thing. But linebacker is where I'm going to key in on free agency. I think they're going to bring in one linebacker that they expect to get starting production from in free agency.
Jake Burns, great insight. The Orange and Brown Report, you can read them also on cleveland.com. Look at his article on wide receivers that are free agents. We'll be checking in with Jake as the Combine finishes next week. So, Jake Burns, again, we appreciate it.